Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. Northern advocates are calling for better support and resources for Inuit sent to jail in the south. It comes after a 24-year-old man from Nunavut was shot and killed by Winnipeg police. Samuel Watt has the story, but first a warning, it contains some distressing details.
James Partridge, Felix Shapa Takawak, Trey Angusadluk, Solomon Uyagasuk are
the names of some Nunavut who've been hospitalised or died while in the hands of law enforcement. A day after she delivered that statement, she found out about Jordan Charlie.
It weighs quite heavily on me to hear of another death.
Jordan Charlie had just been released from custody last week after pleading guilty to several charges involving a weapon. Then on Sunday, a standoff with police at a Winnipeg shopping centre turned deadly. Police say he stabbed an officer in the throat and wouldn't drop his weapon. He had a troubled history, but Inuit-led believes he was failed by a lack of support to help him heal.
Those are the areas of focus that we also need to ensure to make sure that Inuit are able to cope with difficulties, including when they are confronted by our CMP.
Days before Jordan Charlie's death, his lawyer said he had no way of getting home after his release from jail in Manitoba. That left him stuck in a foreign city.
It's a failure, in my view, that the system didn't bring this person back home.
Peter Ernick worked in several Ontario correctional facilities as an Inuit elder. He saw the cultural shock for Inuit going to a southern prison. That's why Inuit-specific resources are so important for inmates, including after their release, so that they're not shocked again to return back to the north.
They need help before they go back home to the communities, otherwise they will cause trouble again when they get back home.
And to prevent another tragedy from happening again. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
3 men from Hay River facing sexual assault charges were on trial today in the Northwest Territories Supreme Court. The 3 accused are Maher Salemi, Amin Zahi, and Hassan Zalema. In July 2022, RCMP received a report of an alleged sexual assault involving 2 adult victims. The CBC's Nadir Hashmi reports.
The Crown prosecutor said the accused met the victims at the Hay River Legion branch over drinks on July 3rd, 2 years ago. Early in the morning, all 5 left together for the apartment of one of the defendants. The following day, the victims filed a complaint with the RCMP. Constable Grayson Campbell was the lead investigator in the case. He testified that the victims looked very upset and one of them was crying. Campbell testified that RCMP arrested Salmi, Zahi and Zelma at their workplace in Ptarmigan Inn and Doghouse Pub in Hay River 4 days later. During cross-examination, Zahi's defense attorney questioned Campbell if Zahi resisted arrest or avoided police. Campbell said he didn't, adding that Zahi seemed confused and possibly didn't understand English that well. Crown presented CCTV footage from the Hay River Legion showing the accused and the victims leaving together in a vehicle. Campbell testified that one of the victims appeared intoxicated from the footage. Around 2:30 that morning, another witness testified seeing the 2 adult victims walking on street in Hay River. The witness said she drove them home and that they were upset and crying. One of the alleged victims identified Salmi, Zahi and Zelma in court today. She testified cordially knowing Salmi and Zahi, who worked at the Doghouse Pub in Hay River, and that Salmi invited them to join for drinks at the Legion that morning. She testified when Salmi was trying to get physical with her, she asked him to stop. She said she was very intoxicated that night. The victim asked for a ride home but doesn't remember telling the men her address. Afterwards, she told the court she remembers being present at a house with the second victim and the 3 accused. The trial is adjourned until Monday when the victim testimony continues. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A 6-unit apartment complex in Inuvik has become the center of an arson investigation. The building is on Inuit Road. 2 fires happened there on Monday. The first fire started at 1 a.m. The Inuvik Fire Department says it did not cause structural damage to the building. The second fire happened at 6 a.m. The fire department says that fire caused major damage to one unit and smoke damage to others. RCMP say the first fire is being investigated as an arson. They say the circumstances of the second fire are still under investigation. The same building was also the target of an unsuccessful arson attempt last week. The federal government is giving the Yukon $4 million to help address gun crime and gang violence. MP Brendan Hanley says the money is for prevention and enforcement. Yukon Justice Minister Tracy Ann McPhee says gang activity has been on the rise over the past 5 years.
Do we have gang activity here in the territory? Absolutely, yes. Do we have gang activity that involves the use and movement and transfer of firearms in this territory? Absolutely, yes. Do we need this fund to help combat that activity? Absolutely.
McPhee says some of the funding will go toward the territory's Safer Communities and Neighborhoods unit. The money will help step up staffing and be used for investigations and analysis of criminal activity. McPhee says the funding will also support the Downtown Safety Action Plan in Whitehorse and the territory's substance use health emergency strategy. Plans are progressing for the first university in Canada's Arctic with an academic focus that's one of a kind. As Juanita Taylor tells us, the aim is to pass on Inuit culture and knowledge at a school located on Inuit lands.
These Inuit students are learning about their culture thousands of kilometers from home because there are no universities in Canada's Arctic.
I miss the community, the sense of community for sure. Having my family around me and just having our culture, around is a really big thing. I miss our land a lot, so it's a big change.
But Inuit leaders are now celebrating that their dream is one step closer, a university on Inuit homeland in Canada.
It will advance economic development and create job opportunities. It will advance reconciliation in Canada.
The Inuit-Nunagat University will be built in one of the 4 Inuit regions, Nunavik, Nunatsiavut, Nunavut, or the Inuvialuit Settlement region. A $50 million donation from the MasterCard Foundation will start putting plans into action to start building the first ever Inuit-governed university in Canada's Arctic.
We don't have to compromise any of our knowledge or our society or our culture or our values to have world-class education.
6 faculties will offer undergraduate and graduate degree programs relevant to Inuit lives, like midwifery, law, Inuktitut linguistics, even hunting.
I think it's a great way for reconciliation.
Tracy Deniston moved to St. John's, a world away from her family in Nain, Labrador, to get her master's in social work at Memorial University. She's glad the plan is moving forward.
It's putting us first. We don't have to be going to school in a dominant culture that is not of ours.
The Inuit-Nunagat University is projected to cost $160 million, so more funding is being pursued.
It'll create a lot of great opportunities for our Inuit for the future.
The goal is to welcome the first students in 2030. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Residents of a subdivision outside Haines Junction, Yukon, are worried about a proposed soil treatment facility in their backyard. The owner and operator of Castle Rock Enterprises says the company has committed to taking every precaution to ensure the environment is protected. Callie McTavish has the story.
For the past 6 months, residents of the Bear Creek subdivision have been raising concerns about a land treatment facility. The facility would be located just under a kilometer away from residences and, more importantly to the homeowners, close to their drinking wells.
Psychologically, every time I drink from this well, every time I wash my baby in this water, I'm going to be concerned and disturbed.
The project is owned and operated by Castle Rock Enterprises, part of the business development arm of the Champagne and Asiac First Nation. The project would be on their traditional territory. A Castle Rock spokesperson says the facility would treat soil that's been contaminated by hydrocarbons like oil and gas. The process uses bacteria, not chemicals.
It's going to use a geosynthetic liner that prevents any contact with the ground, and everything is heavily regulated. There's a lot of testing involved. There's a lot of regulation around environmental protection and the like that appropriately dictates how these sites need to happen. And we're going to meet and exceed all of the environmental standards.
Spokesperson Sean Hall says it's important to have the facility close to Haines Junction because there are a number of historic contaminated sites in the area. An expert on soil remediation says the methods that Castle Rock plans to use are common in the industry.
If you've excavated the soil and you make sure that it's isolated from the rest of the environment while you're treating it, it's hard that anything goes wrong.
However, she did have this to say when it comes to proximity to drinking wells.
So if there's a drinking water well downstream, you want to make sure that that water well is not being used if the contaminant can get there.
The Yukon Environmental and Socioeconomic Assessment Board is still reviewing the project. Once they are done, they'll put their recommendation before the Yukon government to make a final decision. Callie McTavish, CBC News, Whitehorse.
A Colville Lake resident says members of the community have been dealing with bags being bumped from flights repeatedly, and it's impacting their ability to get goods into the community. Northright Airways says this is due to normal weight restrictions and people flying in more baggage. Luke Carroll has that story.
Joseph Cachon paid over $450 to fly some additional bags back to Colville Lake with him, but he's still waiting for them to arrive.
I called about it on Monday. They said they'll put it on, but it got bumped again. So
Cachon says such delays are happening to Colville Lake members regularly. He says 3 other people who are on the flight with him are also waiting for their bags.
Everybody paid a lot of money just for the bags. It's just they're not getting their bags.
Northright has a 60-pound limit for passenger cargo. Anything over that is not guaranteed to make it on the flight. Kyle Newhook is a spokesperson for Northright. In an email, he wrote that excess bags are supposed to arrive on the next available flight into the community, unless that flight is completely full. For a community like Colville Lake, planes only fly in 3 times a week, which means each time a bag doesn't make it, it will take more days. Newhook says this year has been particularly unique with the lack of barges and now the Canada Post strike. He says that Northright has launched additional flights until Christmas Eve to try and help with excess baggage. Luke Carroll, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Yukon's municipal councillors now have 2 options when taking the oath of allegiance for office. They can pledge allegiance to the Crown, as usual, or they can pledge allegiance to the Constitution of Canada. The Yukon government amended its regulation for oath-taking today. Earlier this month, Dawson City councillors refused to swear their allegiance to the King. They risked giving up their seats on council if an alternative wasn't provided. The story made headlines in Canada and the United Kingdom. Councillors-elect said today they didn't expect this to spark such a big conversation.
I don't think any of us thought that this is how we would start, but I'm happy it is how we started. It shows that we are a united team, and I'm happy with that. I did not intend for this to be a huge media phenomenon that it turned out to be. It's great that it did. As a First Nation person and a Canadian citizen, I acknowledge just the history of the monarch and Canada and the Indigenous people, but also the people across the world that it has affected as well.
Lynn says he's looking forward to officially swearing into office. That is happening in Dawson City on Tuesday. This is CBC North on your smart TV because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device, all for free. It's called the CBC News North streaming channel. You can see your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News North, your local news streaming channel, is now available.
Release him. Why?
Well, I would say it's extremely bad form to arrest your new boss.
This man is actually in my custody.
What did he do?
Well,
Did you hear that? I'm being charged with,
This ranch isn't going down. Not on my watch.
If the car comes with the deal, I'm in.
Cheers, dragons!
I look forward to fighting you on many a deal.
Oh, we look forward to meeting you.
Dragon's Den. Watch free on CBC Gem.
The Nunavut government says recently tested fermented meat is not contaminated with botulism. Last week, it told people in Sunirayak and Igloolik not to eat fermented meat because of a possible risk of botulism. The GN says though the tests are negative, people should always be careful when making traditionally fermented foods. It says botulism can happen when improper methods are used to prepare food. Tonight, we have the last story in our series on addiction in the Yukon, and it's one about healing and recovery. Tai Kianate is an Indigenous-led organization that offers a space for people in recovery. The CBC's Virginie Ann takes us to a family healing camp run by the organization.
That looks so good. I've never seen a moose nose before.
This moose nose is one of the few things that is not frozen around here. Instead, it's fatty and meaty, a delicacy. We're a few kilometers outside of Whitehorse, right by Fish Lake, at a place called Diane's Camp. The organization Takianate uses this place to do family healing camps each Saturday. Cooking a moose nose is not the only goal for the group today. They're also here to give thanks and reflect on the long journey they all share, one of recovery and healing.
And it's a long journey. It's a journey of everyday journey. Maybe we don't even achieve it in this lifetime, who knows? But we're gonna definitely try each day. But go back to land, that's a good place to start right there. When you're in addictions, you disconnect from all of the things that support you. The land, the trees, they heal us. Everything, the water, the air, the mountain, the birds, all of these things are a part of us. These are the things that help your spirit to become strong and do the healing that you need. So when you go back to the land, that's where it all starts.
Joe Migwans is the spiritual practitioner and elder advisor with Takianate. He says land-based healing is something the Yukon has needed for a long time. That's because there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to addiction. He says treatment programs can't be the only thing out there, especially for Indigenous people.
People are looking for a lot more options for sure. The whole thing is wrapped in sorrow and grief, and it's wrapped in pain, and people are hurting for sure.
Migwans says shame and guilt tend to keep people stuck in their addiction. But here, it's the opposite. Instead, there's love, support, and a feeling of home. Inside Diane's cabin, the spruce tea is boiling, mingling with the gentle smoke from the fire, grounding us in the moment. The scent brings a sense of deep connection to nature even if we are indoors. The afternoon is filled with food breaks and open conversation around everyone's latest victories and struggles.
Tekeanate is what helped me when I thought I hit a wall, and it helps you connect with people and you're not isolating, and it's good for people that are just coming out of treatment. It's good for them to connect with other people instead of isolating, because that's what I did when I started healing. I started isolating, and I thought I was doing good, but I wasn't. I had to make connection. There's help out there, and you need people to connect with and the land to heal.
Stuart makes a run for it, but she misses being the first on the skidoo. Instead, Desiree Blackjack takes 2 little girls with her. Families are welcome not only at the camp, but at each of Takia Nate's activities.
Recovery involves the whole family. And as a mom, I know this firsthand. The kids being here, listening to what we're talking about in recovery, they'll help them to understand what their parent is going through.
I concentrate on the people who are here and the people who do want to be here. Keep moving forward. No matter what happens, whether or not somebody shows up, we will show up. We will be here.
Blackjack is the visionary behind the organization. When she's not out with a group, she's at Takia Nate's drop-in center in downtown Whitehorse. Here, the smell of moose stew and bannock welcomes anyone that steps inside. Just like the camp, the drop-in center also feels like home.
After I finished treatment and started my own recovery journey, I noticed a huge gap here in the Yukon. There was no traditional or cultural aftercare programming. We need a place that people can go to that they know that when they walk in the building, that there is no addictions around. They come here, our team is sober, and our team all have lived experience as well. So we can relate to where they're at on their healing journey.
Takia Nate has been expanding since it started more than a year ago. The drop-in location now serves as a hub where anyone can access free workshops, talk with a recovery coach, or get a warm meal.
When I hear that there's no support, that's when it's an opportunity to educate them, right, on what supports are actually here now. We know where to get those resources, and we know where to get that help that we need. And we want to offer that to everybody in and around the Yukon as well.
Blackjack echoes a lot of what's been said during the National Addictions Awareness Week. When it comes to recovery, community is key. Addiction is complex. There's no easy way out of it, even when the support is there. No matter who's impacted by it, from the vulnerable people living in the streets to our leaders, mothers, and children, there's one message that keeps coming back: the importance to remind ourselves that beyond the addiction, there's a human suffering. Compassion, support, love, these things can go a long way. Virginie Anne, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Christmas came early for some people in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut. Canada Goose donated dozens of parkas to the community. They were distributed by the Kivadluk Inuit Association. Selma Eccles has more.
Rankin Inlet's Lynn Rudd lined up early to be one of the first 10 people allowed in to get a free parka. She says she can't sew, and this really helps her.
I think it's wonderful because for people who don't sew, it's very handy to grab one. I'm grabbing one for my grandson, and my baby's grabbing one for herself.
Albert Outcoat was all smiles because he did not have a winter parka for this year.
Going to be nice and warm now because I don't have warm parka.
Lisa Uluyukis with the Kivadluk Inuit Association. She helped distribute the parkas to community members.
We're giving away the brand Canada Goose parkas. There are some jackets and sweaters, but the Kivadluk Inuit Association was sent by Canada Goose jackets and parkas to give away for free.
Other Kivadluk communities will also be receiving new parkas to distribute to the people in need. Selma Eccles, CBC News, Rankin Inlet.
A young Whitehorse artist is celebrating her first art opening. Riley Sears' exhibition is called Pixel Perfect, a journey drawing outside the lines, and it opened last night at the Yukon Arts Center. She created all of the work using a tablet. The digital creations reflect themes of empowerment, emotion, and self-expression. For Sear, the art is also a form of medicine. George Moratis brings us her story.
I'm a young artist that's still learning how to draw.
If Riley Sears seems nervous, she comes by it honestly. Her first art exhibit has just opened. It's a big deal for anyone, let alone a 14-year-old. This is the first time Riley has seen her art blown up, and hung in a gallery.
Seeing it all really big is just breathtaking because it's like, whoa, I can see so much. I see every single little mistake.
Riley is especially nervous today. The path to this moment hasn't always been clear.
A year ago, I've been like struggling my whole life, but I finally got diagnosed with ADHD, which explained a lot. And so you can tell in a lot of pieces of my art that I have very short attention span. I've learned a lot about myself, and art has helped me express my feelings and how I am as a person. Well, my art's really been a journey, because you can tell when I'm sad or when I'm happy or when I'm like feeling really bleh, because my art reflects that.
Riley says art has helped her better focus day to day, something not always easy when living with ADHD.
A common thing is I'll be going downstairs and I'll have to be like, what am I going downstairs for? And so many things are going through my head. So
The teenager says her creations are like medicine.
my life's been so much better now that I can help concentrate. My art, it helps me like express my feelings, because I have a lot of trouble sharing and talking to people. So being able to use my creativity and my skills to just tell their own stories. They may be different stories, but pieces of me and how I'm feeling, who I am, are in every single one of them.
You know, she started off, she had a lot of anxiety when she was little, and everyone told her she had to journal, and she hated journaling and refused to do it. And then when she found art, that became her method to release her emotions that day or that week or that month. And I'm just so proud of this kid. Like, she's come so far and she's got grit. She never gives up.
Putting myself out here in this gallery is like a big moment for me, because I'm really scared about it, if I'm being honest. 'Cause normally most of my art I keep to myself because I don't want people to judge it, but putting myself out there, it's scary, but in the end it helps me out a lot. And I realize, wow, I did this. And this one I actually drew and made, and we got printed, which
George Moratis, CBC News, Whitehorse.
yeah, I made these, and they'll be like, whoa.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.
They're making more money than they have ever made in the history of the music business.
We have generation after generation of us not seeing a fair piece of the pie.
How do we keep the money from Black music in Black people's hands?
Art
heart is pounding. This is very hard to do.
We both know it's not an easy task.
The Great Canadian Baking Show. Watch free on CBC Gem.